to our, what shall we call it, program, discussion, chat. I welcome everybody. Thank you for tuning in. And also make sure when you subscribe, you also hit the little bell that will make you aware of live streams and everything we have going on as we build out the Warriors platform. So many things I want to get to on this Monday because the rest of the week is incredibly busy with meetings all day tomorrow and then off to the belly of the beast on Wednesday, Washington, D.C. A couple of things I want to go over is, tomorrow is the uh,
No, no. Go on. Keep talking. You're live here.
I don't know. My computer's saying an error occurred. Wait a moment. Is there anybody there that can tell me that they can hear me 5x5? I'm coming in loud and clear. Something, because this is telling me that I'm not live.
I am listening to you live. Right
Really, I've got my producer here in the room with me.
Go live again.
And I'll hit this live button again because my wonderful
You're
introduction.
Coming in hot, honey. You're
Oh,
coming in
okay,
hot.
you are live now. I was welcoming everybody. I don't know. Did you hear me say that?
I
Because
sure did. It was
I don't
great.
know. Going into tomorrow, which is Tuesday, a very busy day before we descend upon DC. I want to tell you about that and how I need your help. But tomorrow night is the big debate. Now, listen, I never tell you how to vote. That is your business. However, I always do tell you when you vote, you think about who is the best candidate for our children, for our families. I want to know. Both candidates need to be talking about more of the child issues. I'm sorry. A lot of this stems out of these open borders with the crime, with the fentanyl, with the child sex trafficking, child labor trafficking, and then these cartels that are allowed to be complicit with our US government, in my opinion, also are going into our middle and high schools and getting our teens, because they pay them a couple of bucks, to traffic their peers and also to sell their dirty drugs. So we want to get to the bottom of that. And that's what I want to hear about. I don't want to hear all this other kind of things that we're hearing, the distractions, because, I'm sitting in the middle of New York City. We have a lot going on here today. It seems like the city is kind of always on the edge of something happening. But now we have talk of our police commissioner stepping down. There's rumblings about our mayor, all kinds of things going on, and a connection perhaps to sex trafficking. Now, I'm going to leave it at that until we know more details and things like that. And we have more hardcore facts, as we say, before I go into that one. But I want to fill you in about getting back on the school, since we did just start schools fairly recently, that how many times do we have to, I just want to get rid of something that's bothering me here. There we go. I see Faye is there. Hello, Faye. How many stories do we have to hear about teachers, the predation upon our children? What is going on? Now, again, there is my producer reaching over to clean up what's in front of me. But again, there's Faye Dalton saying, hi, everyone. I'm late. Thanks, Faye, for joining us. And thank you for all of your contributions to the Warriors. What is going on? Because every day I am inundated with press releases, things I'm reading online about these teachers going after our kids, right? And then today I heard another story about a teacher, and she was educating a group of boys about her pronouns. Now, call me wacky, but when we went to school, there was kind of that separation between teachers and students. We weren't getting personal. But now it seems to be one big personal something. And that, my warrior friends, is what is wrong. There is no division anymore between the adults, between the children. And you know what? We have plenty of studies that show us children want structure. They may kick and scream a little bit. They do better with structure. They want structure. And we welcome Nick Nightingale Always my biggest fan who does it for the algorithms, who's also saying hello to Faye. So, I want to talk about schools again a little bit because there's also something nobody's talking about, and that is the chronic absenteeism, not only affecting New York City, affecting our entire country. I guarantee you nobody's talking about this. New York always routinely would say pre COVID. Yes, I have to bring up that word because for me, it's kind of a demarcation line pre COVID, after COVID, things happening. And routinely it was said, well, we have 1 million students enrolled in the New York City public schools, the biggest school district in the country, followed by Los Angeles, I believe. And now all of a sudden, now just follow along here, they're saying 915,000 children enrolled. Now we do know, and nobody's talking about it, that many kids just disappeared after COVID. They never came back. Certainly, we know some have moved away from New York, but this is something that I'm reading up on, studying, trying to get to the facts, which are hard to dig out from reliable sources. There is a crisis of chronic absenteeism among our public schools with our kids. Why isn't anybody talking about that? Nobody. Lots of school stuff, but nobody's talking about that. There's Edie Crowley. Hi, Edie. How are you? Edie, thank you always for being such a warrior and your artwork and your contributions to the Warriors. We are building by leaps and bounds. But I really want to talk about this chronic absenteeism, right? Children need a place to go. Children need their education. Why is nobody following up on this? And chronic absenteeism is described as missing 10% of the school year. So I ask you, this feeds into missing kids. Missing kids. Now, when I descend upon Washington this Wednesday for the Senate roundtable, which is off the record, but I'm telling you about it, but I'm not telling you what's happening at the roundtable. Basically, I will say my piece. And my piece is, something, I wear this little pin almost every day. You can't really see it, but it's from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. And it was given to me. It was given to me, let's see, before I even officially became a warrior about 5 years ago. And I have kept it near and dear and close to me and carry it in my purse, my bag, all over. I wear it a lot because I want to know. I want to know why I keep talking about approximately 2,300 children, American children, are missing every day. Now, remember, that can be runaways, that can be familial disputes, right? Custodial parents, we've got all that going on. We've got sex trafficking, labor trafficking. So we've got the 2,300 that I've been hearing that number for a while now, so it's higher. And we've got the over 400,000 that have come over our borders unaccompanied. We've got thousands and thousands of kids, and there's Wambui watching today on X. Thank you, Warrior Wambui. Dear friend and indeed a warrior. But you know what? I keep asking the so-called experts that we work with, we are involved with, and I'm like, hey, 85,000 were missing unaccompanied minors a year ago, April. Now, recently, over 320,000. Does that mean there's over 400,000? The same answer is, I don't know. So I am prepared at my Senate roundtable this Wednesday to very respectfully rattle off some facts, stats, and look around at this bipartisan gathering and ask them what the heck is going on. When I talk about kids, I actually get teary-eyed. I'm a tough warrior, but I actually start to get teary-eyed because between our American children and the lack of services for them, the lack of mental health care, the lack of help for parents, whether it's medical, whether it's educational, food on the table, and then no matter what you think about the border, bringing all these kids in, we know, the one thing we do know, and this is directly from law enforcement, that a large portion of these unaccompanied minors are sex trafficked and labor trafficked. So I ask you, who are the companies, for instance, labor trafficking? Who are the companies hiring these kids? Shouldn't we be going after them? Because we do know from studies that left and right, for lack of a better term, Democrats, Republicans, I don't like labels, but that's what we got to work with these days. They both like cheap labor. So wouldn't it be easy to find out Whether a community sees children working, whether adults working at wherever these places are, the meatpacking plants, the lumber yards, um, let's see, car manufacturers, farming, indeed, all kinds of manufacturing type. If we know adults are working there, why won't anybody come forward and be? I guess they're too scared to be a whistleblower. But when you have this amount of children missing, shouldn't somebody be saying something? So these are the kind of issues tomorrow night I want to hear about. It all feeds into the crime, right? A lot of these kids, including our kids, again, are being paid directly from cartels to carry the drugs, to sell the drugs, to do whatever they're doing. These organized crime rings go into, for instance, a Sephora, as an example, and steal this, go to a Walmart, steal this. I mean, all over right here, Flushing, Queens, Roosevelt Avenue, also in Queens, Jackson Heights. Every day, people who live there, work there, send me things. Those are my warriors. It's an open air market with row after row along the sidewalks of stolen goods, preventing businesses, trying reputable businesses from doing their business, from people who live in the community to walk down the streets. They're being approached, they're being harassed. And a lot of these people selling the stolen goods, from what I understand, are getting very, very aggressive, getting in your face, holding things, running after you down the street. Not only that in these areas, and also I add here Brooklyn to this part of it, open air prostitution. Open air. You can't tell. Is it a 14-year-old or is it a 24-year-old? And this is allowed to all go on in New York. And don't think it's just New York. Recently, LA, their law enforcement said we're cracking down on this Figueroa Avenue, the corridor of prostitutes, of children. Now, I don't like, and this is where a lot of people always disagree with me. I say a child can't consent. Therefore, a child really can't be a prostitute because they didn't consent to this. They're a minor, they're underage. Yet those in the business, and this is something that the business, when I talk about the business, I'm referring to human trafficking, sex trafficking, labor trafficking. Follow this thought of mine. They will fight and argue with me, and they will say to me, no, child prostitutes, let's call them what they are. I come back with a child cannot consent. Don't call them a prostitute. In some way, shape, or form, they have been forced, coerced into this life of sex. So kind of a balance here, but I never refer to a child as a prostitute. I get a lot of flack about it because, again, a child is a child. I don't care. If they're under 18, that is a minor. They cannot consent. That's the law. I didn't make it up. So we've got all that going on. We've got no real pushback happening. These are the things at the debate tomorrow night. And is this a debate? Think about this. I guess it's technically a debate, but there's no audience. Mics are muted, 2-minute answers, 90 minutes. I kind of call it a back and forth exchange, but I am very curious how the one candidate will explain her, so I guess you know who I mean, her stance on, under her watch, the border. If she was a Republican, I'd be asking the same question. How is she going to explain all of this? I don't want to hear that repetition that I'm hearing over and over again, that there was a bipartisan deal for the border that the Republicans struck down. Let me tell you that I don't know how many hundreds of pages that presented deal was. If you go through it with a fine-tooth comb, you will find a lot of inconsistencies. For instance, not to bore you too much, but these are important things. X amount would be allowed to openly cross our borders a day. And when it got over that amount, we're going to shut the border down. Now, come on. Does that make sense? These are not people, for the most part, coming through in an organized fashion. I mean, they're storming the border. They're coming through, for instance, even Canada. We have to talk about Vermont going up there. We very rarely talk about that. We're always talking about Texas, Arizona, and certainly lately San Diego, but we don't talk about our northern borders. If you think about it, everywhere's a border, including our oceans. Why, they could drive up in boats to the Jersey Shore. Those are borders. We are surrounded. It's open. Now, Wambui says she claims she was always for a wall. Well, She can claim what she wants, um, but she wasn't. So I'm going to say that's an outright lie, and I think we all know that. It is shocking to me that somebody who just wants to win can just take all of the facts that we have on tape, online, whatever you want to call it, in writing, tweets even, just say, no, it didn't happen. No, and flip. And so hopefully Donald Trump, and I'm digressing here. I didn't mean to go off in this direction, but how could one not help go in this direction when this is the election of our lifetime? Certainly tomorrow, the debate, in my opinion, of our lifetime. Just let her talk. Just let her talk, and let's see what happens. And the talk, I have a feeling she'll sound fine. She'll be fine, but she will be lacking substance. She will be lacking the facts we all know about. So that's the important thing. Just let her talk, and then we can refute everything, that night, following day. But I really want to know about this open border, and about these deaths of these young women and families. And there's so many things not reported to you. Somebody in California, an illegal, broke in, and I'm cleaning up my language a little bit here because we're a family program, and attacked a 5-year-old child. Now, that should have been all over the news, right? And it was the child of a Navy SEAL. So I would think that's newsworthy, but of course, nobody's talking about that. And also, as Lionel Nation, in full transparency, my producer, my better half, my saint of a husband, my truth seeker, she listed her positions for the first time at 50 days, and they're valid at best. But here's what I say about that. These were just listed on the website after weeks of people saying, she doesn't really have anything listed, but she had to list something. Tomorrow's the debate. So that just gets rid of that whole question of, you have nothing on your website, no positions listed. So they put a slew of things. But I want to know. How are you cutting down? Again, this would go for a Republican. I'm really trying to be like middle of the line here. Like when she says, we're going to cut down food prices. How are you cutting down food prices? First of all, if you dive into markets, supermarkets, all this stuff, they're on a very slight profit margin with all their goods. It's about gas, delivery. It's about inflation. I mean, even I know this. You can't say I'm cutting down on the price of bread. Makes no sense. So, what the heck is going on here? What the heck is really going on here? I come before you today because I've been asking, and not only have I been asking my husband, I've been asking many people, like, where's our president of the United States? I mean, I did see the visual of him a couple of times. He was on a beach. He did something one day. He went on a campaign stop with Kamala. Who's running this country? We're facing September 11th, 2 days from now. Again, that was a marker for me before September 11th, after September 11th. That was the time that I woke up, because before that I was busy with life and children and this and that. And then September 11th. And for the first time, I started paying very close attention and questioning things. I'll just leave it at that. Where is all of this? In the meantime, all of these missing children, all of our children that are being, looked at as chattel, as objects, it's just allowed to flow. So when I go to Washington, I'll tighten up my speech here, warriors, but I want to know, Democrats, Republicans, senators, what are we doing? Because I am tired of going to Washington. We know it's all bad. Where are the takeaways? Where are the resources? What is going to intervene to prevent this? Not just slapping the Band-Aids on, as I like to say, but to stop it. Why is this allowed, this war on our children? Why? I don't understand. Okay, KWC, I'm still surprised Americans think the president runs the country. Well, I certainly don't. Most Americans actually do. When I say, it's kind of a figurehead, there are people behind the scenes, but I still ask, That figurehead in an election year is needed, is needed. You can't just disappear. You are the president of the United States. Be visible. So I have so many questions, but I really want to focus on our schools. I am so worried about, there are many good teachers reporting back to me. They're afraid of the unions, standing up to these unions. They're afraid of losing their jobs. And then we've been infiltrated by these other ones talking about their pronouns and other things, touching our kids, abusing our kids, texting, sexting with our kids. Unbelievable. This is what we should be talking about. This is what we should be talking about. So I want to hear more about that. And on top of it, there's so many things kids will say to us when we do our focus groups that nobody's addressing. Lori Lewis, thank you. $5 super sticker. Lori, you're such a good warrior. Thank you for that. There's Nick, always weighing in. We like that. Okay. Valkyrin Heart 4. They have an agenda, and it doesn't include our best interest at all. Obviously, I skipped the first part because, who knows with the YouTube, what goes on. But as Wambui points out, my main focus is, where are all these kids? Our American kids, our unaccompanied kids. And that leads me into, which will be part of my Senate presentation on Wednesday, the justice system itself. What is it doing for these children? Because putting children in these foster homes, these group homes, these people who take them in and have reported to me, people my age after decades, and kids now, they are being re-traumatized, re-victimized, re-trafficked, abused. Or if you only know a life where your family sold you into sex trafficking, right? It's normalized. You don't know any different. Say you're a 12-year-old girl, and then you're put in a foster home, and they continue the predation. You don't know any different. It's horrible. I work with a lot of survivors, and young women, middle-aged women, older women. They cry to me. They cry to me that nobody cares about them. They cry, who's listening to us? These are the things we need to address. Again, things are only escalating and getting worse. We know all of this. Everybody's sitting around talking about how bad it is. We want action now. We want resources. We want help for our American people. And in the meantime, I don't know, about over 400,000 kids 400,000 kids missing. I mean, that is, think about that. It's larger than some states. Joel points out, thank goodness for Florida's Congress protecting children here. Florida does excellent, excellent work, in my opinion. Not only in my opinion, actually is proven, between the governor, between AG Ashley Moody, between their human trafficking initiatives. A lot of our members we work with, other groups and organizations, are based out of Florida or moved to Florida during COVID, and we're very thankful for them. They do have the leverage and freedom to do much, much more. But that being said, when people say to me, so leave New York City. If I leave, who's going to be here? If not me, then who? Who's going to bring up these issues, right? Who's going to represent New York City, New York State Wednesday when I sit at the Senate round table and I look around and I make eye contact, which I did 2 years ago, and people went like this. A few people. They wouldn't face me. They wouldn't face me. And then to walk out at the end of it, and I took the stairs to go down in the building. I didn't want to get in the elevator, wait for the elevator. Just wanted to leave. I was approached by a couple of different people who whispered to me, we love what you said. You're so right. We'd love to come on your channel. We'd love to talk about it. We're not allowed to. Allowed to. This is why, while I do that kind of work and keep pushing and pushing and pushing, right now at the Senate roundtable, we have 14 bipartisan child protection bills that we are going to be discussing, okay? The senators coming are all sponsors of these bills. So we need to discuss how we can move these forward. I can't move them forward. All I can do is ask you, to go to Senate.gov, House.gov, and add your support, because numbers count. I tell you that all the time. All I can do is be a mouthpiece for everybody, give voice to the voiceless. They actually have to move it, in the House, in the Senate. I can't do that for him. So I want to ask, well, what are you all doing? Like, I know it doesn't sound, it sounds kind of stupid actually, but nothing's stupid. Um, where are all the kids? Again, I'm almost starting to cry. The one thing that makes me cry is nobody will address where are all the kids, and it's piling up. Even these kids in New York City, I'm seeing out on the streets selling the trinkets and water bottles, and just they should be in school. I mean, who's doing anything? And the waste of money, our tax-paying money on all of this. Can you imagine if we had that money? Why, I know Wambui would be setting something up to handle holistic healing, the arts program. I know Faye would be doing something. Edie definitely. Edie could be teaching the art classes because, with the Warriors, we are now expanding into kickboxing and dance, art, all this holistic to give people an outlet, not only if you're human, part of human trafficking. People need this. People need an outlet. So really, tomorrow night, I'll be running around again all day at meetings, but I will certainly be home to watch the debate and give you my assessment of that. But I want to ask, why aren't we addressing the education system, the chronic absenteeism, all of this stuff? None of it. The cartels operating in our public school system around America, all 50 states, by the way. Why aren't we talking about who allows this stuff? And then I got to wake up and hear about, I don't know, Haitians are eating cats in the state of Ohio. And that's what the cable news, the mainstream media, focused, and people online, they're focused on that. We can't be focused on that when I continually tell you what's going on with our children, what's happening, because I'm here to say it's a runaway train. There's no end in sight, except if you step up to the plate. But that requires not shooting mouths off. It requires reading, educating, following well-vetted sources, and getting the information out there. If it's to your child or grandchild, that's enough. If it's to your friend or family member, that's enough. Certainly, we're always pushing for the schools. Get in there with a couple of parents. Make sure you know what's going on. You have every right to ask, what's the curriculum? Be a class parent. Do they even have class parents? I don't even know anymore. Some schools do across the country, but places like New York City, it's a free-for-all. How sad is that? When we have, somebody said to me the other day, well, everybody, a couple of people have said to me, well, we should be doing homeschooling. If it's a single mom with 2 jobs, she can't homeschool. Have to use the public school system. Our taxes pay for it. It should be a system that we're able to use. KWC says, I think part of the problem is campaigns are being funded by these NGOs, foundations, agencies, and big money who are in the business of kids. They aren't going, well, we know this, KWC. I'm not diminishing what you're saying. We know this. That's just the point. That's why you have to become a warrior, take things into your own hands. But I'm sure as hell, I guess I'm allowed to say that here, going to fight in Washington. Why, after all, I'm a constituent. I pay taxes. I'm fighting. Why should these people get to, march around Washington, say they represent us, and not get any of the work done? I am sick and tired of this. And I understand the bottom line's money, and I understand everything's ruled by money, and I understand big tech. Their lobbyists are getting $1,000 to $2,000 an hour. Probably went up since I even said that. And they're very powerful. And I understand that our Congress, when they retire, they want to be on the boards of banks and Silicon Valley and all this stuff. But I don't care. We have to make an impact while we're here. We have to make a difference. We have to speak up. Whatever we can do, the slightest thing helps. This is the mindset we have to think about. When people say to me, which makes me so, I don't want to say angry because I'm not an angry person, but, well, I can't do anything. I can't change anything. It starts with you. It starts with one person. That's what it is. It starts in your own home. Faye says, nobody can rouse their emotions enough to take action. Well, there are a lot of people taking action, but remember, there's power in numbers, so we need more. Kids in my school years would go to reform school if we missed too much. That's Faye saying that. Yes, they used to call the home. They used to come to your house, the police in different places. Romano Productions is saying, hey, Lynn. And there's Carolina. Welcome. Listen, I'm telling you, you have to become a warrior. I was happy to hear today, I don't think happy is the correct word. A couple of headlines that Peter Nygaard, do you remember him? Now, this has been going on. There have been whispers for a couple of decades I've been hearing about this fashion mogul out of Finnish fashion mogul. Big shop was here in Times Square, Nygaard Fashions. The man is 83 years old, and he was sentenced today in Toronto, 11 years. Now, I know that's something. He's 83. That's Toronto. He will also be extradited. There's talk of to New York. There's a big case pending against him. And also, I think in two other countries. But routinely for decades, I think I've been hearing about him since maybe the late 80s. But again, hearing. So I didn't have any proof of any of this. But modeling, the modeling industry. And he was also part of a modeling agency. And all, you know, this whole connection. But he would routinely have these parties in the Bahamas at his mansion and fly girls there as young as reports of 12, 13, or 14. And I'll leave it at that. You know the rest. Also, in his office in Toronto, his main business setup, he had a secret wall where he would be wanting to meet with models to see if they represented his line. And then all of a sudden, he'd push a button and the wall would go back, and only he had access. There were no doorknobs on things. Again, we're hearing that story. Why is it taking so long to do anything with this man? If I heard whispers about this in New York City, again, I think it was definitely the early 90s, and also from modeling, people I know involved in modeling, why was nothing done? And now he's 83, and this is his first sentencing. You know, it goes along with the Harvey Weinstein story, who, by the way, was, I guess we have no updates, rushed to a hospital in New York are the headlines for emergency heart surgery while he's awaiting something in Rikers Island. Now, again, he has been just, that went on. There were whispers again about that. We heard stories, didn't have proof, heard stories about him. But he gets arrested and thrown in jail and prison. And frankly, from what I can see, very mistreated. I'm not defending him or anything like that. And others get to walk free. And then this Peter Nygaard, nothing happens till he's 83 years old on death's door. Excuse me, that's the way I look at this. Uh, Romano says, thanks for the shout out. By the way, Lynn, I'm a longtime fan of you and Lionel. Well, thank you. Everybody should be a fan of my husband's because he speaks truth. He seeks truth. He comes to things from a legal perspective. I am very proud and honored to be his wife for decades because he is absolutely my best friend. He empowers me. He helps me. Let's just say I get much more excited about these issues, waking up every day, wondering, brainstorming, watching the inaction. And he is a calm force and always has the right answers for me. And I love him dearly. So I want to throw that out there and just say if every woman had a Lionel, I'm sorry, be a better world. That's just the way that goes. Wambuhi says, precisely, the people in Washington are supposed to work for us, but they don't even want to answer our questions. Well, you know, I'm holding their feet to the fire. And it might be every 20, I make a breakthrough. That's good enough. But here's the recipe. You got to keep after it, keep at it, keep at it, keep at it, keep at it, and you'll have that breakthrough. Just one. And from that one, it will go forward. That's the way we have to look at things these days. We can't just say general. I saw somewhere, I think it might have been Edie. I saw something about apathy. Well, we know about this apathy. We know how people are. We know people are lazy. It's funny. I was doing an interview the other day, and I advise all of you to go back and look at Sergeant Dan Nash, retired now, Missouri, human trafficking, the AG's office, retired after 27 years, worked with violent crimes, drugs, great big warrior. And he formed in 2021 the Human Trafficking Training Center. And it's a very simple solution. There are solutions to a lot of these things. One part of the solution of this human trafficking in our country we're talking about now is having a well-trained law enforcement. And Dan has made it his mission, and he is, I like to say, a rocking and rolling tour de force. He's got so many trainings lined up across America. He's done a lot of them. And it has proven when you have a well-trained officer who understands how to talk to a victim, right? because the usual thinking was, you throw a prostitute in jail. You take a kid, you put him in a foster home, you dismiss him, throw away. Usual thinking. And they weren't trained. Unbelievable. There is no real training, except lately there is. And Dan is taking his decades of expertise. I want you to go back and look at that interview on our channel. And really making headway. Really making, once they understand the group of officers, how to handle. And our next part of this pie is training the justice system as far as the judges, because I've had judges cry to me, not understanding they have a child in front of them and they cannot throw them in jail. Are they better off in the foster home, the group home, when they know, they'll never admit this in public, all of that just recreates this traumatization and trafficking for the most part. And it's this full circle I talk about, this full wheel with a lot of spokes, but we're digging in. There's so much happening behind the scenes. So somebody like a Dan Nash should be supported. If you know anybody in law enforcement, it's not only law enforcement, he'll teach in hospitals, it's primarily law enforcement, because he believes that goal of training will then, in each community, spiral out. Everything we talk about here on the Warriors, snowballing, I like to say. And he will be here in December in New York City. And I'm so happy. I'll be attending and getting our NYPD back to where they belong, and understanding how to deal with all of this. So Edie says, your interview with Sergeant Dan was great. I hope you have him on again. I certainly will. And Betty's here from, I saw Betty from somewhere. Like, Betty, where were you from? Betty said Niagara. Okay, Betty, there's a lot of trafficking coming over, a lot of illegals coming over from Canada into our northern U.S. I don't know if you have anything to say about that, but a lot of that's happening. If you report, is the social services better? You hear so many horrible stories. Well, here's what you have to do. We still have to follow some protocols. It is better if you think you see something or hear something, to actually call 911. It's better than nothing. I'm advising you to do that. It's also, if there's a missing child, something, you're not held responsible. See, that's the part I don't understand. I think people are too scared. They think they're held responsible. You're not held responsible. You can report to the hotline for missing kids, right? That is a wonderful organization, that National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, and they are so overwhelmed. They do good work, I am here to say. Yes, could things change? Sure. We need more manpower, woman power. That is the biggest thing, burnout, working, anything with children. It is that horrific. But again, we cannot let any of this go. So if you're a parent, get involved in your child's school. If you're a parent, you must start talking to your child. I tell you all this. I tell it all the time. Broken record, I admit. Open and honest communication, because you are allowing the internet, you are allowing the strangers, you are allowing the predators to educate your children. You are allowing it. It is not going away, the internet. So it's up to you to have this open kind of community conversation within your home. It's together. It's this family digital partnership I always talk about. And let me see what Faye says here. Is it possible public education is in danger of phasing out? It doesn't seem to be turning out quality as far as preparing students for life. And Faye says we must get involved, keep our eyes open. I don't think in our lifetimes, like, public school education is going away. However, we did learn during COVID, going forward, tremendous increase in homeschooling, a tremendous increase in charter, right, schools, which I like. We want school choice in our states. I don't know why people fight against that, right? Our taxes, we should pick where we want for our child. Private schools have always been more expensive. Certainly there are always scholarships for a certain amount of students, but usually a little tougher. However, they've increased in enrollment. And also something I like that's going on around the country is people are creating learning pods. And it's kind of sometimes all hands on deck. And it's kind of this model. And there's so many programs now online, accredited homeschooling programs. Remember, it used to be considered kind of weird or strange, even I'm going to say 8, 10 years ago, certainly 20, 30 years ago, homeschooling. But these pods, and I know people involved in this, and I know teachers, the program, and I'm a great believer in this. I've always said this. School for children, a couple of hours a day. Who needs this 6, 7, 8 hours running from classroom to classroom? That's just my opinion here. Lunch breaks in cafeterias, going to lockers, exchanging books, whatever's happening. If you had a couple of hours of concentrated studies, right? And then you had, an activity every day. You go to a museum. You go out to a park and it's just physical activity. You sit in a circle and you talk about what's going on, headlines, what are you hearing? What are you seeing online? I like that kind of model, kind of thing. And I hate, because my dear friend reported to me the other day, her grandson is in high school. And she was telling me, this poor kid, and this happened to me in high school. I would do, and I kid you not, 5 to 6 hours of homework every night. Now, I loved my schooling, my high school, Catholic, all girls, great education, small school. But looking back, I would kill myself doing all this homework. I just couldn't. I remember there would be TV shows on once in a while I would want to watch at 8 or 9 at night. I couldn't. We didn't have all this VCRs in those days. And just killing myself to complete, to complete, to complete. I don't believe in that. I believe in maybe 30 minutes at most of a review, of organization, of something. And then I also love, and I always say this, required reading of an actual book, a hardcover, a paperback, a book. You turn the pages. You have accomplishment if you finish a chapter. You have accomplishment if you finish the book. I'm telling you, I've seen kids, they feel accomplished. So the pendulum is slightly swinging back because we are instituting these things across the country in certain areas ever so slightly. But it's happening. But there's nothing like, in a household, you're in charge. Everybody sit down. It's 15 minutes of reading. 15 minutes goes by like that, which I can't even believe I'm talking now almost 43 minutes as I look at the live button. So everybody suggests to the Senate, Faye says, don't worry, Faye. I'll be reporting back at my overall, because they're always saying at the Senate roundtables, these things are not to leave the room. But overall subject matters are what I speak about. I'm not giving away anything, or, so I'm going to talk about these subjects. I also want to point out that I want everybody, this is the debate of our lifetimes tomorrow, to don't comment on it unless you're going to watch it. Seriously. So we at the Warriors are great believers in, I don't just repeat anything, repost anything, talk about anything unless I've done a little research. So we're always about research. I'm also asking all of you a reminder. There was another story out of Oklahoma, twin girls. All the details are not out, that they were in 90-degree heat last Thursday, and a relative was babysitting for the parents and forgot the kids in the back seat. And we're kind of having a heat wave here in New York. It's going to be in the 80s. Friends and family I know out in California were telling me it was in the 90s yesterday. Somebody even told me 109 in one area of California, hot across our country in certain areas. We need a better method. Why are all these kids being left in the back seats of cars? People say they forget the kids are there. We have seat belts. We have all kinds of bells going off if you don't buckle the seat belts, or you don't do this, or you drive too close to another car, and alarms and this and that. How come we don't have something from the manufacturers, or something we can buy to put on the dashboard or something? I don't know. Did this always happen and we never heard about it? But now, because we hear about it, we're hearing more about it, and we have the internet. But that is something, make sure you're always looking out for other kids. I've even gotten to the point, if I'm in any kind of big parking lot where there are a lot of cars, as I'm walking by, like a Costco, I kind of just, I don't go up to cars and try to peer in, but I kind of always just look in case there's a child left in the car, because then I want to alert authorities. Denise says, my husband and I made a lot of sacrifices to send our children to Catholic school. I think, I know my parents made a lot of sacrifices to send us all to good Catholic school. My husband's family went to Catholic school. I know a lot of families, that was their priority, that was it, that they spend the money on the children's education. And we've got to figure it out, warriors. So I'm going to leave you with this. If any of you have any ideas for the Senate, I'm pretty well versed in everything. I want to make sure I get everything in. I'll be going to Washington lots, very frequently now. I want to get back in there. I don't want to be discouraged because of everything going on. If I'm strong enough and able to travel there and have a voice for everybody who doesn't, I want to carry that on my shoulders and do it for you. And certainly, certainly for all of the children out there, all of the missing kids, Americans, the unaccompanied minors. This is criminal and not allowed. It's your job. Make sure you know about the schools. You get involved in the schools on some level. Talk to your kids. Talk to your kids. Understand wherever the kids are, so are the predators. It is escalating. 36 million reports to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children just last year alone, of sexual things on Facebook. And all, it's too big to even talk about. So it's up to us. We got to break it down, take a breath, and we have to keep at it. We cannot say, I can't do anything, I can't change anything. The best work is done at home and in the community. Why, for instance, if I tried to take a position in Washington, as some people suggested to me, I could never get anything done. Let's see where the election goes in November. We have 56 days? Something like that. Let's see. Remember, I don't ever tell you how to vote. I do tell you to vote for the candidate who will protect your children, protect families, talk about these issues. So I want everybody to remember that. But remember, you have a voice. Use it. House.gov, Senate.gov, find out who represents you. Write to them. You'll get their phone number. You'll get their email. You'll get everything. It's free. It's easy. You can have one sentence. What are you doing about child predation? It goes into the log. I'll have a lot more to say to you. I'm going to let everybody go. I know everybody's busy. The Warriors has a meeting to attend. And I want to leave you with this thought. I want to thank all of you for helping us build this platform. We are going straight through. I have initiatives I cannot announce yet. I have projects in the works. I don't want to say they're entertainment projects, but I guess you could say they're media projects that I'm working on. Nothing is going to stop us at the Warriors. I want to thank everybody who's sending the donations in, the goods, offering services. We will be doing a giveaway soon. I'll tell you about that, where we go out and give away books and toothbrushes and toothpaste. And we've got some gloves and hats coming in as the winter. We'll have our fall giveaway here in New York. We go into the communities and we provide Goya foods and things like that, things people need that you don't really hear about, right? Always follow lynswarriors.org. Write to me with any questions, Lynn at lynswarriors.org. Nick, you're a warrior. Edie, thank you so much. Carolina, let's go through this. Frederic, some also make noise if the seatbelt is messed with or if seats are still in use when the car is put on hold. I don't know. We just have to keep pounding away. Oh, Frederic says most family cars here in Europe have lights that mark if someone is seated or doesn't have seatbelt on, so it's right in front of you behind the steering wheel. Well, we have bells that go off, but we need something like, I don't know. It has to be built into a car, but we also, in the meantime, Amazon has everything. Why doesn't somebody create something where maybe the Warriors, well, we need something. This has been going on. These kids left in these back seats dying. How horrific is this? Juliana says horrific mindlessness and the girls were in the car for a long time. Yes, because even if we are distracted and overwhelmed these days, but even if, say you did that, oh, it's horrible, a horrible thought. You left a child in the back seat. Maybe by the time you got to the front door or whatever, or you got to the store, you'd be like, oh my gosh. Or Or maybe if you have a child in your car, you have to tape a note to the dashboard and say children in car. Something, or on when you go to close the door. You got a sticker on your car, children in the car. I don't know. But this cannot go on anymore. Let's see. Betty says, nice channel. Thank you for having me. Thank you for joining us. And I want to go back to our donation. Thank you for that. I'm trying to find, I like all these comments. Oh, here we go. Lori Lewis. Lori is such a warrior, such a fan. $5 super sticker. That's Lori Lewis. Oops.
Hang on a minute. How y'all doing? Here we go. Just hit that button right there.
I'm hitting it for
Just
Lori
hit that
Lewis.
button right there, and
I'm hitting it, honey. I'm
just gonna try to help you.
I'm doing this thing. I know how I'm getting the swing of it. All right, everybody, you've got your assignments. You've got your work cut out for you. It's not as overwhelming, as hard as it may seem. Just take care of yourselves. Remember, self-care, care for your kids, hug your kids for no reason. Just be aware. Remember, our hashtag is Community Creates Change at the Warriors. So go out each and every day and be a warrior. Thanks for joining us.